is Tracy. I'm back again for a very short video as I really want to take this time to introduce you to the most amazing person that I met just recently at one of the shows in Birmingham. So this lady is really going to help you learn the lingo, and you know how important it is to learn the French lingo when you move in, living, or creating a business in France. So today I want to speak to Céline Guerreiro. She is a language mentor and she's going to explain to us a little bit about how she can help you bring French culture into your life. Celine, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so thrilled to have you with me. Now, I have got some questions lined up for you, as always, I do for my guests. But before we dig into those questions, maybe you could just spend a couple of minutes explaining to the people who are watching this video who you are, what
Mhm.
you do, and why you like to do it.
Thank you for having me today, Tracy. So I'm Céline Guerreiro, the founder of LanguageMate. I'm a language mentor. I help English native speakers to have real conversations in French and finally feel at home in France. I also help French native speakers to speak English confidently. So I work with both French and English native speakers. I help them to learn how to learn the language, and I pair them together as language partners. So if you know what to do, if you like doing it, and if you have a language partner to talk to, you will succeed.
That's fabulous. Thank you, Celine. You know, when we first started, when we first met, we first talking about what you do, I was really actually fascinated because it's a little bit how I learned French. You know, when I came to France 35 years ago, I was like, how can I learn French? Um, but with real local culture. And that's what I think attracted the program that you have. I would like you to explain a little bit about how the idea of teaching French to English came about. How did you get this idea of this quite, unique program, really?
Yeah, you're right. I'm not a traditional teacher,
Yeah.
and I define myself as a French teacher or an English teacher, not at all. In 2020, I wanted to speak English fluently. I was able to read properly, and I was really into Montessori pedagogy and neuroscience, and I wanted to dive into it and to interview experts in the field. And so I was able to read, but I wasn't able to speak. I decided, no, I have to do something about it. So I've been learning English for 6 years. I studied English at school, obviously, a long time ago. But in France, when we leave school, we can read, but we can barely talk. And that's the case for me. My daughters, I really want to help my daughters to speak English. I knew that there were school wasn't enough. So my husband is French, and I couldn't change that. So it's not they were not growing a bilingual family, and I decided to find American women to spend time with my daughters, to read, to cook, to have fun together. Not a class, not
Mhm.
a um, and they were young at that time, and they, I created an English environment for them in France, in Dijon. So now my daughters are not bilingual, but they can watch TV series in English, they can speak English. So I was really happy to do that for them. But when I was opening the door and I was trying to explain what I was looking for, I was stuck. So I had to use Google Translate or whatever to explain what I was looking for. And I was really into Montessori and neuroscience. So I said, no, I want to speak English. So I applied thanks to my background in neuroscience and Montessori education, I knew what to do. So I've been talking to Paulette, my Canadian language partner, for 6 years. I've been talking to Elaine, my Australian language partner, for 3 years, I would say. And I had other language partners here and there, but Paulette and Elaine, we've been talking for a long time, and they really, really helped me to make progress. But and I also helped. I'm helping, not in the past. We keep doing it. So I help them to improve their French skills. So instead of the teacher, the student, it's two learners who are helping each other, and we learn from each other's. So uh, gi- uh, we give feedback. The feedback is essential. We need to make mistakes in order to learn. But the fact that we give accurate feedback, really, really good feedback to each other, is really, really precious. And when I started 6 years ago, I wasn't able to express myself like this.
That's
Uh,
amazing. Yeah. That's just amazing how, applying it to yourself really is what has created your business and your program.
yeah,
Um, and it reminds me of, when I came 35 years ago, this type of thing didn't exist. And it was just language lessons, the traditional language lessons. And I don't learn in that way. My mind doesn't work in the same way, so it did not work for me. So I remember doing very similar. I went to the supermarket. I distinct remember trying to ask for a slice of ham in French and being distraught when nobody understood what I was talking about. It was extremely embarrassing, but I was, a slice of ham, and tranche de jambon was really complicated back in the day. So I actually started working with the cashier who wanted to learn English and I wanted to learn French, this is why this program you're doing is so, I can relate so well to it because it was similar what we did. We used to sit down every week. Obviously, you've just seen it's more technically how you do it now. So I think, the way you're doing it, maybe it's a good way for you to explain how does language mate work? Because of course your clients will be all over the place, all over the world. So how
yeah.
do you make that work for people who, like, for example, some clients might be based in the UK or in the US, and then you've got your French people, local people helping them. How do you make that work in Language Mate?
Yeah, and you were right. People, when they want to learn a language, they think about paying a teacher, having classes, or using apps. And
Mm,
I think a language is having a real connection with a human. And with AI, a lot of people use apps, but it's so much more interesting and fun to talk to a native speaker. So
yeah.
yeah, I work online. Obviously, it's the only way. And 3 times a year, I work with around ten learners, five French native speakers and five English native speakers. And my goal is to teach them to learn how to learn the language on their own and to make the most of their conversations together.
Mm,
Um, so after 3 months, I want them to be independent. And something I underestimated, I should have known because it happened for me with my language partners. We became friends, but I underestimated it. After 3 months, obviously people keep talking to each other, and that's the point. We do nothing in 3 months. 3 months is just the time it takes to learn, to get in touch with their language partner, to know what to do on their own, and to enjoy the process. But I started in January 2023, and people are still talking to each other. Uh,
yes. It's,
I would say 80% of people are still talking to each other. So, and I'm not surprised. They became friends. And there are a lot of things I told them, oh, it should be great if you do that, it would be great. And usually after 3 years, the only thing they keep doing is talking to each other. But this means they still make progress because
yeah.
they are consistent.
Yeah. It's creating a relationship, isn't it, through language. And I loved what you said as well before we started the video. We were talking, and it's about, I love this, bringing French culture and language into the household, which, is the way to do it, isn't it? If you can teach people how to teach themselves by bringing French language and culture into the household, that
Yeah.
is how to start and to stay on the path of progress.
Yeah, yeah. And lately, I've been talking to a lot of people who have been living in France for 8 years, 13 years, so a lo really long time, and they still struggle. And I think one of the big mistakes is when people think, okay, I'm going to move to France in a year, in 2 years. I will start learning French once I'm in France. You can create a French environment at home wherever you live. So you can live in an English speaking country and you can create this French environment. You can talk to a language partner, so a French native speaker. You can read, you can watch TV series, listen to podcasts. You can immerse yourself in a French environment, and it takes time to learn a language. So it's better to start um,
Really, yes.
before moving.
Yeah, and that's what I do say to my clients when I have them on a consultation. I do say, especially the people who come in and have businesses where there's a language requirement now, and it's getting a little bit stricter. It's like start sooner rather than later. Get into this type of program would be good. And I remember I used to do wine and cheese evenings. Now that is the
Oh,
best way to learn French once you're in France. I mean, in moderation for both, actually, moderation for both wine and cheese. But wine and cheese evenings with your French neighbors,
yeah.
why
And
not?
it, it's it's funny that you're bringing this story because Theodore, an American guy, and Fabienne, a French woman, they started talking to each other on WhatsApp a few days ago, and I decided to match them together because Theodore is a cheese maker, and Fabienne, I remember. I have I talk to my clients a lot. We have 10 one-on-one sessions, so I know them. We have time to get to know each other. And I remember that Fabienne told me that every month, maybe, she had a girl night, and they were drinking different wines and eating cheese. And I thought, oh, okay, Theodore, Fabienne, I think it would be a good match. And they
Yeah.
have one thing in common, so they are talking about it. And I'm in the WhatsApp group, so I can see what they are talking about. So I'm a little bit lost because it's funny, but I don't drink wine. I live in Burgundy, but I don't drink
Oh,
wine.
interesting.
But it's funny because I can see that they love talking to each other. They have
That's
this
nice.
one thing in common. Um, yeah, so it's really enjoyable for me to see that
Yeah.
people become friends. And I have another story. Claire, an American woman, and Julie, a French speaker, they were talking about la raclette. You know, it's
Mm.
a
Yeah,
dish
yes.
with cheese,
The
and Claire, the
takeover.
American woman, have never heard about it. And Julie shared this. It's really typical from the French culture.
Yeah.
And so they talked about it, and Claire bought a tool to do it at home in California. Yeah, yeah. So it's the culture, and people love talking to each other, and
Especially if
and
it's about food. I mean, there's always subjects gone. But I think
exactly.
what's great in this is that you actually, and it's not to underestimate. So for people who are watching this later, is, Celine does a program whereby she's going to spend time with you, first of all, to find out, who you are, what you like, what you don't like, so she can match you with the right person. So this is really important because when you have something in common with somebody, even if they're speaking a completely different language, you will find the subjects, meet them up, and then she sits there in the conversation in the background just to make sure you're doing what you need to do. I remember you saying this, and you keep an eye on, you check in with them, and you make sure they're doing the program. But at the same time, that relationship is building, so then more communication is coming on as well.
Exactly. And now I'm in the WhatsApp group for a few weeks, so I make sure they give accurate feedback to each other. I make sure they are consistent. And after a few weeks, I disappear. And when they have video calls, usually we wait a little bit, but I remember for Estelle, a French speaker, and Julia, an American, they sent me maybe the second recording. So it was the second time they were talking to each other on video call. And when I watched the recording, I was supposed to help them to improve their English, their French, and the feedback they were giving to each other. And I was really it blew my mind that they were talking to each other, and I thought, no, it's impossible. It's only the second time they are talking to each other. They are talking about their kids. Their kids were struggling, and honestly, I was really, really surprised that it was only the second time they were talking to each other. It felt like they've known for it for a really, really long time.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And again, interesting point because again, this program involves, there is a program to follow video calls where they speak English and French with each other, and that you watch that to make sure they are doing it English and French because there's no point jumping on a call if you're going to not speak the language. So yeah, there is there is
Yeah.
an
And
element of
usually,
control there. Yeah,
so I explain them how to do it before getting starting the call. But
yeah,
usually, half 30 minutes in French, 30 minutes in English, they do it. But even though I teach them how to do it properly, they always do things a little bit differently. Sometimes it's a good idea and it will help, but sometimes I need to
you
tell
have,
them, "Okay,
yeah,
it would be better if you do it like this." So I really want them to make progress. It's not just having a friend; it's making progress at the
yeah.
same
And I
time.
think as well, that's why it's good to emphasize. And I love this word, a language mentor,
Yeah.
because you are there to mentor them through learning the language. It's not a teaching, as in, I'm going to teach you, the vocabulary, or there is a learning process, and they do need to learn vocabulary. I think, everybody watching this, I know I had to sit down and learn my verbs. There are some things you just have to learn. But you are a mentor in that your idea is to really help people learn. Tips really to be able to bring French or English into their lives. And I do have a question as well. It was for people who are thinking, who are very enthusiastic about learning the language, what level would be, in your opinion, the minimum language level that they need to have to be able to join your program? Because just for everybody, not everybody can join the program. There is a minimum level to be able to come into this. So what would that be for you?
I would say when people are able to have a basic conversation, it works. Sometimes they don't feel ready to have video calls right away and to speak French for 30 minutes. But it's not an issue. They can start talking to each other on WhatsApp. It's less scary, it's shorter, so they don't have to rush into video calls right away.
Mm,
So I would say, well, usually learners can understand much better than they are able to speak.
mm,
So if they can understand, they can talk a little bit, create a few sentences here and there. It's doable. They don't need to. It's usually around A2. Okay.
yeah,
I do work with complete beginners, at least not in language mates, but yeah, around A2. And sometimes people, I remember a French speaker. I would say she had a B2, a C1 level, but she wanted to live in the US and to be more confident.
yeah,
So it works perfectly. So I
yeah.
would say
Okay, yeah.
from A2 to C1.
Yeah, and that's interesting because, and as well, a lot of people underestimate what level they are. 'Cause people say to me, "Oh, I'm A1," or and it's hard to estimate what level you are. So I would say to people, if you're not sure, we'll introduce you to Celine so you can have a conversation with her, and she'll tell you straight away whether it's appropriate or not. I would imagine you'll have a conversation with the people
Yeah.
and say, "Okay, let's just have a few words in French or in English, depending which way it is,
Yeah.
and see whether you think it's appropriate." Because we tend to underestimate what we know because we're so unconfident. I know
Yeah.
I was dreadfully not confident with my French.
And you're right, and it's especially true for French speakers. In British people, it depends. Americans, they are confident. I think that the education system is really different, and they are not. Um, Sometimes they feel self-conscious, but French speakers are really, really scared.
Mm.
English speakers, it's a little bit less, I would say. But yeah, you're right. And I talk to every learner because I want to make sure this is going to work for them.
And
So
yeah.
if they like talking, if they want to help someone else, and if they are ready or not. And from now, I decided so I was talking to each person for 30 minutes, but I was losing time explaining how the program works. So now I decided to be really, really clear on my website and to spend these 30 minutes to speak 15 minutes in English and 15 minutes in French.
Excellent.
So we will. I will be their language partner just for this call to see how is it going, and it will be easier for me to see if I can really, really help them or not.
Oh, that's fabulous. And I think so it's worth them reaching out. And I guess, I know you're busy and it's we don't have too much time. So I just want to finish on one last small question, if I may. For those people, let's say, who are not quite sure they have the language level yet. So we do have people who are beginners and are starting to learn with the apps and things like that, as we said at the beginning. What would be a tip you could give them to say, okay, to help them kind of build the level up so they could eventually join Language Mate? Well, could they improve the language?
I would say, with no doubt, comprehensible input. Input means when you listen and when you read. So beginners should start with listening to a lot of content.
Mhm.
We need to train our ears to they will acquire some vocabulary. So they are not going to learn French. They are going to acquire French. That makes a big difference. So obviously, when we are beginners, we don't know anything, but just listening to French content helps a lot to yeah, because language is music, and the intonation is really, really different between English and French. So train your ears, listen to French music, to French podcast, French TV series, to receive input. And after a few months, it would be comprehensible input. So if they understand around 80% of it, they will acquire vocabulary without knowing about it. Oh, I understand this word. How is it possible?
Oh, that's amazing. I completely agree with you. I remember I used to watch a lot of programs on French TV. Don't forget, we're talking 35 years ago. There was no apps back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so there was no apps, unfortunately. So it was Wheel of Fortune and things like that. So yeah, going back to basics effectively is what you're advising. So I love that. Celine, I just want to finish up by saying really thank you so much for joining me today. And for anybody who's watching this video who feels like they want to have some advice or to have just 30 minutes with Celine, reach out to me. I'm happy to introduce you. And yeah, we can get you on the path to bringing French in or English into your life. So thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you, Tracy.